Welcome, we'll start with our next class for Indian culture. Now in this session we would be talking about the UNESCO's sites which are listed under intangible cultural heritage. Now under UNESCO listing you have two cultural heritages that are listed. One is tangible, which could be seen, which could be valued. The other is intangible, that is knowledge, expression, ideas, music. So all those which cannot be really which can be experienced, cannot be really visualized as an object, would be intangible. So under today's class we would discuss the intangible cultural heritage. Now it's important to note most of the material that you would have the latest update either till 2015-17. We have included the 2017 inclusions as well. However, any further development after 2017 would also be included. So all these handouts which are available here would be at doorsteptutor.com. So you can download or you can view the material from there, or you can take down the notes right away. Now as we said, what is intangible? So when we talk about cultural heritage under UNESCO, these are traditions or expressions that are passed from one generation to another. Now these could be in the form of oral traditions, performing arts, you have social practices, rituals or festivals, knowledge about something or some traditional art. Now under the Convention of Protecting the Intangible Cultural Heritage in 2003, you had the intangible cultural elements concept that came up, and this was established in 2008. And since 2008 you have certain listings from India, and those are very important. So whenever we talk about intangible listings, there are two types of listings that we would understand. The first is the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Now this we would understand with a special respect to India, and the next is the list of intangible heritage in need of urgent safeguarding. That means if they are not safeguarded or protected, they would be either endangered or extinct. So these we would include for 2016-17, and we are not including this only for India, we are including this worldwide because there are 4 or 5 things that have been mentioned under this. So we are including all of these under the second part. So we would be understanding today's lecture in two parts. First is the intangible cultural heritages of humanity for India since 2008 till 2017. Then we will be moving forward with a list of intangible heritage in need of urgent safeguarding. Now why there is the need for intangible cultural listing? The idea is to promote awareness, to safeguard those heritage, and to give them a kind of world recognition or a recognition throughout the world. Now whenever we consider the intangible cultural heritage, there are 4 basic features that we look about. The first is they are traditional and contemporary and living at the same time. That means they are originally traditional, but they still have their own values, or they are inherited from the past, and these traditions are still preserved in today's society. So that's the key aspect. The next is inclusive. That means they pass on from one generation to another. So this we would see as a classic example from Punjab that we will talk about in a minute. Now these are passed from one generation to another, so the art of doing something or something unique is passed from one generation to another, and it gives them a sense of unique identity or continuity. The next is representative. That means the values are exceptional. So the knowledge of skills, ideas and customs are passed to the rest of the community from the community that really knows it. And it's community based, means certain groups maintain it and transmit it. So when we talk about the intangible listings for India, you have starting 2008 you have 3, then you have 2009 you have another one, and so on. So you have the complete list here. Now we will discuss each one of these one by one. So let's start with the inclusions from 2008. The first is Kutiyattam. This is a Sanskrit theatre from Kerala. Now this is well known because it's a kind of combined dance drama where both male and female participate. Now the males belong to the Chakyara caste and they are mainly from the state of Kerala. The women are from the Nangyar caste and they play the roles of the female in the drama. The theme is based on the Hindu mythology and the main character who is explained here is Vidushaka, which is a kind of simple Malayalam story that forms the background. Now again with each of these traditions, the musical instrument that comes into play is again important. So here the musical instrument is Mizhavu, and now there are two things that are classic for this. One is the expression of eyes and the expression of hand. The expression of eyes are known as Neta Abhinay, and the expressions of hand or the hand gestures are known as Hasta Abhinay. So these two are the key elements that are seen in Kutiyattam, and the person undergoes a training for around 10 to 15 years, and they have a kind of unique breath control, and that breath control helps in the finer movements of the hands and eyes. So this is mainly performed in the theatres which are known as Kuttampalams, and these Kuttampalams are located in the various Hindu temples. So you have the musical instrument Mizhavu, that is like this, and the idea for the Kutiyattam. The next is Ram Leela. Now Ram Leela most of you might have heard of. It's a traditional performance of Ramayana, and it literally means the play of Ram. So how Ram fought with Ravana and finally brought Sita back. So all those scenes are recited, narrated, and there are kind of dialogues that exist in the Ram Leela. This is one of the popular folk theatres of Uttar Pradesh, slowly and gradually spreading throughout the country, commonly seen during the times of Dashera, performed mainly by the male actors, and then there are certain roles like role of Sita which is given to a female actor. Based on this, you had one of the radio plays which was known as Us Gaon Ki Ram Leela, that had an idea to promote communal harmony. The next listing of 2008 is the tradition of Vedic chanting. Now Vedic chanting is a concept that has been given by Aryans to India late back around 3500 years ago. This is one of the world's oldest surviving cultural tradition that exists, and UNESCO has proclaimed this as a part of Vedic chanting. So you have 4 Vedas that are included. Rig Veda talks about the anthology of the sacred hymns. Samved talks about the musical arrangement of the hymns. Yajurved talks about the sacrifices that are made, and Atharvaved talks about the incarnations and the spells. Now these Vedas are were not only important in the past days but are also important in the present days. As of now, only 13 of over 1000 Vedic recitations exist or have survived. 4 of the main schools which promote Vedic chanting are in Maharashtra, Kerala, Karnataka and Odisha. So this is again very important. So that's Vedic chanting. Now in 2009 you have Ramanna that was included. Now Ramanna is a very unique festival of Garhwal Himalayas. The people who follow this festival are known basically worship Bhumiyal Devta, and this is organized in the village and is not performed anywhere else in the Himalayan region except the Garhwal region. It starts in late April, and the 2 villages of Salur and Dungra in Uttarakhand usually have this function. So there is one family that considers that we would be organizing this function, and they maintain the rituals throughout the year or strict rules throughout the year. Then you have the singing and the rituals that are done, that is mainly by the Brahmins. On the other hand, you have Bhandaris, which are local Kshatriyas, and they become the Narsimha, that is half man, half lion. The most important idea is singing of Jagar, which is a kind of musical rendition of local legends that happen in that region. It is this Jagar is sung by Jagaris or Bhallas of Rajput caste, who are basically by profession they are bands. Then this function starts with recitation of prayers for Ganesh, moving on to sun god, some other dances, and finally on to a Ram Katha. In 2010 you have Mudiyettu that was included. Mudiyettu is again a theatre ritual of Kerala. It's a folk dance and drama which is performed in Kerala. Mainly after the harvest of the summer crops it's done. The region where it is performed is known as Bhagwati Kavus. These are the temples of the goddess located on the different villages near the river Chalakuddi, Periyar, Puzha and Movatu Puzha. So along these four rivers you have various temples of Bhagwati Kavus that are present, and these are organized in each of these villages. The idea is the goddess Kali would kill the demon who is known as Darika. This Kali is also known as Kalam, and on the floor of the temple you have colored painting of Kali that has been built with colors, and then there is everyone in the village from each and every caste participates in this festival. The next is Kalbelia. Kalbelia is one of the folk songs of Rajasthan. It is performed by the tribes of Rajasthan who are known as Kalbelia tribes. They are a kind of nomadic tribe. They do not live at one place, they move from one place to another. The songs are based on mythology, and the female becomes a kind of does a dance in the form of a snake, and the male person tries to play khanjari, which is a percussion instrument, and pungi, which is a wooden instrument, a woodwind instrument, and it resembles a kind of playing to capture the snakes. So you have kind of black dresses which are adorned with silver linings, and it's mainly performed during Holi festival. The next is Chahu dance. Chahu dance is a dance unique to the eastern part of India. Now it's a kind of tribal dance. In Odisha it is known as Mayurbhanj Chahu. In Jharkhand it is known as Serakila Chahu, and in West Bengal it is known as Purulia Chahu. This all talks about episodes from Mahabharata and Ramayana and connects it to the Chaitra Parv, that's the beginning of the new year according to the Hindu calendar. The dance is mainly performed by the male members, and the theme is based on the Hindu mythology. Now there are various reed pipes that are blown which are known as Mohri and Shehnai. So different musical instruments and different intangible heritage. So each one should be correlated properly and must be known, and it also kinds of bring together the society and removes any kind of social distinction that occurs in the society. Next is the inclusion in 2012. You have the Buddhist chanting in Ladakh. So Buddhist chanting of Ladakh is you have the region in Jammu Kashmir, mainly in the Leh region, which is a kind of cold desert area. You have two forms of Buddhism that are prevalent in general, which are known as Mahayana and Vajrayana, and then you have four major sects which are known as Nyagma, Kagyud, Shakya and Geluk. And all these four sects have different forms of chanting the Buddhist rituals. So all these Buddhist rituals became the part of the intangible cultural heritage. Now monks wear special clothes and make hand gestures similar to the Buddha, and you have the musical instruments like bells, drums, cymbals and trumpets that are blown during this time, and then you have people who are trained for this purpose. The next is 2013, you have Sankirtan. Sankirtan is one of the dancing and ritual of Manipur. It marks the various stages of the life of Vaishnav people of the Manipur plain areas. Now this is mainly done in the temple area and talks about the deeds of Krishna through various songs. Now dance is performed with 2 drummers and 10 singer dancers. There are two main ideas to do this function. First is to bring a festive occasion. The next is to bind the people together, and it's a kind of visible manifestation of God that could be seen under this. The next is in 2014. This is what we were talking about, the inclusive concept, that's movement from one generation to another. So you have the traditional brass and copper art craft of utensil making in the Thatheras of Jandelia Guru, Punjab. Now Thatheras are known because they have a unique way of making utensils, and that part is transferred from one generation to another through oral means. So they use copper, brass and certain alloys which are considered good for health. Then they take the cool cakes of metal which are flattened into thin plates, and then you have the air that is blown through the wind pipes to make them into the curved shapes, and different utensils are made, and this is transmitted orally from father to son or from one generation to another, and many families in the Jandalaguru area in Punjab still survive on this art. In 2016 there were two things that were included. First was Navroz and second was yoga. They were adopted in the Addis Ababa Convention. Now Navroz marks the new year for the Parsis. There are various rituals and ceremonies that are done. You have the table decoration that takes place. On the table you have a bowl of goldfish that is decorated, and you have the whole family coming together and eating. Now Navroz is known by different names in different parts of the world. It's commonly celebrated in Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, India, Iran. Then you have Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Turkey, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan, wherever you have the Parsi population that is prevalent. So it's the new year for the Parsis. The next is yoga. Yoga is considered a kind of uniting the mind with the body, and it's kind of practicing various poses, meditations, controlled breathing, word chanting and various techniques to help self-realization and kind of attain a state of liberation. So you have the various yogas that could be seen here. Now in 2017 recently you have Sital Patti that has been included. Sital Patti is one of the cool mats from Kuch Behar area in West Bengal. The idea is these mats are used for sitting or hanging on the doors, and these mats are made from the green cane slips of the murta plants which are native to the Kuch Behar area of West Bengal. Now these were all the intangible heritage of India starting 2008. Now we will talk about some of the heritage that is in the need of safeguarding as per 2006. So there are four basic ones. The first is Bishelas black pottery. Now this is common to Portugal. It is known as land of pot and pan producers, where you have black pottery that is common in the village area. The next is Chapai Dang Wang. This is a musical tradition of Cambodia which is conveyed by singing, and you have performers who are mainly male members, however female can also perform. The next is Kozak songs. These are the songs which are common in the Russian areas of Dnipropetrovsk region, and the idea is to explain the life of the soldiers and the tragedy of war along with the life of the Cossack soldiers. So that was the third one, and the last one is the Medibaul Lahiri music. This is a kind of music that is practiced by Medi people of Uganda. It is related to the practice of transmitting from the seniors to the younger people in the same community, and there are various rituals which take place with this music during their various functions. So with this we cover the UNESCO intangible heritages. We will be covering various tangible heritage and other lectures for Indian culture in the upcoming lectures. Stay tuned. Have a good day ahead.